Welcome everyone to this episode of the AskJasonGelios Show. I'm Jason Gelios, Michigan Realtor, and I appreciate you tuning in where I'm going to be sharing what an earnest money deposit is as it relates to purchasing a home. So first and foremost, the definition of an earnest money deposit, or as it's referenced, EMD, and a good faith deposit is just that. It's a sum of money that you put down as a home buyer to demonstrate how serious or your seriousness about buying a home. So you put in an offer and it gets sent over to the listing agent or the home seller direct if there's no agents involved, and they say, okay, how much is your EMD? What's your earnest money deposit? Or hopefully they know about that. You say, well, okay, I don't know, it could be $1,000, could be $2,000, okay. There's no concrete rule. You could line up 7 different real estate agents and ask them the same questions and you'll get different answers. Typically it's 1 to 3%, or it's higher depending on how aggressive you want your offer to come over to the home seller, okay? But in most cases, an earnest money deposit acts as a deposit on the property you're looking to buy. So some things that you should know is that earnest money deposit is typically held by a third party in what's called an escrow account. So it gets held typically by the buyer's agent, if you have agents involved, which I'm assuming you have agents involved. But if not, a third party holds it, which if you did have a for sale by owner and you were the buyer and neither party had an agent, you would want to use a title company to hold that earnest money deposit. One party should not be holding on to that, okay? But it's typically held by a third party in an escrow account. Many times the home buyer's agent's office has an account set up per law and they would hold it there. So the money remains in the account while both parties are going through the terms of the contract. Now, at closing, those funds, right, your earnest money deposit as a buyer, it gets credited back to your closing costs and comes off of what you would bring to closing. So it's not an additional fee, it's just something that is held in good faith to show that you are serious about your offer. Okay, it could be applied towards down payment, it could be applied towards closing costs, prepaids, whatever. It's just, for example, if you had $1,000 earnest money deposit and you were supposed to bring $1,500 to closing, now you would only bring $500 to closing, right? So that's pretty much how it works. And I want to share with you kind of, how much is enough, right? What do you put down for that? My take is it's about 1 to 3%, depending on if you're in a competitive situation. So if you're in a competitive situation where you are competing against other offers as a buyer, then you may want to think about increasing that earnest money deposit amount because it shows you're more serious. For example, offer A, right, comes in, let's say $250,000, but their earnest money deposit is $1,500, which is kind of low for $250,000, okay? But you have offer B that's offering the same amount, right, $250,000, but their earnest money deposit is $3,000, okay? Depending on who they're approved with and all that fun stuff, or if they're paying cash or getting financing, that higher earnest money deposit is going to come across more strong in the eyes of the home seller, okay? So I want to mention too that there are some factors that allow you to get that money back as a buyer. For example, if a deal falls through because of a failed home inspection, or the appraisal fails and renegotiations weren't able to take place, right? The seller doesn't want to budge, so the buyer walks away. You should be able to get that earnest money deposit back. Now, I will caution you on this because even though you might be entitled to receiving it back, for example, if you walk away because the inspection failed or the appraisal failed and negotiations failed, both parties, buyer and seller, have to sign a mutual release. And so what happens is if the seller doesn't sign that, then the buyer may have to sue the home seller in small claims court or with an attorney to get that back. So just so you know, it's not just an automatic, here's your check back. Okay, you might have to fight for it, but you would be legally entitled to it if you had those things happen, the failed inspection and the failed appraisal. Okay, so why have this earnest money deposit, right? Why is this a part of the thing? Well, my professional opinion is if you didn't have that in place, if you didn't have a requirement, let's say as a home seller and a listing agent selling the home, that you have to have an earnest money deposit come along with that, then any buyer could just write multiple offers on multiple homes, right? And then hoping whatever one sticks, and they could be wasting a seller's time or sellers' time. So this shows that, you know, the buyer is for real, right? Because many times they take a photo of the check or any form of proof that they have released an earnest money deposit to the buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent has it. Hey, listen, I'm sending over this offer, to you, seller or listing agent, and my client wrote out a check for an earnest money deposit of $3,000. Here it is, okay? And then if the deal is signed, when the deal gets signed, if it's signed, then that goes into the escrow account that I mentioned earlier. And then of course the seller hopefully takes the home off the market and all that fun stuff. So, you know, there's things that you want to be aware of. Those are the major thing. Now, I was talking earlier, again, about how much should the earnest money deposit be? How much should the earnest money deposit or EMD be? Well, 1 to 3%. And I say 1 to 3% because you don't want to put too much in the game because you're on the hook for that should you have to back out for no real reason or no allowable reason, right, per the contract. But if you're up against other offers, and usually you will know that because, you know, you will find that out in discovery, as lawyers say, then you want to up that earnest money deposit to make your offer look stronger. So I hope you found this valuable. Again, earnest money deposit, it's a big thing. Many times, you know, home buyers don't quite understand why that's there. And so hopefully this episode of the Ask Jason Gelios Show actually educated you on that. Of course, if you have any comments, like have you ever had to give out an earnest money deposit on a home, go ahead and share that in the comments. I'd love to continue this conversation there. And be sure to reach out to my websites. I'll put those links in the description, and the title is right here. And follow me on social media, and just, again, share your thoughts about this episode and any other episode, quite honestly, that you've watched. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching, and have a great week.